Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, with day 12 of our 31 Perfect Albums. I am joined again by Mr. Bill Schuster. How's it going, Bill?
Doing great, Armando. Coffee's kicking in.
I need one. I need a second coffee. Mr. Ken Cheshire, how's it going, Ken?
Doing well. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Glad you're here. And the man of the hour, yet again, Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
I am doing very well. Thank you, Armando.
Good to know. Good to know. Glad you all are here. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we are back with day 12 of our 31 perfect albums. That is perfect, all killer, no filler. We have each picked, again, a list of 31. This has been painstakingly difficult, especially for Bill, because he had 64 selections at one point, and he had to bring that down to 31. So, yeah, this has been difficult, but we're having fun, damn it, and I mean it. So, I will pass the virtual mic as I again see on my screen down to Bill, and he'll give us his selection for day 12.
All right. Thank you, Armando.
You're very welcome.
You've already previously picked my selection for day 12. You seem to be a couple years ahead of me. So, as you did with Crime of the Century, you were a couple episodes ahead. With Genesis, A Trick of the Tail from 76, you also beat me to the punch. This is my favorite Genesis album. Just it is. I love most of the Genesis catalog. I'm not going to particularly say that the 5-man, the 4-man, or the 3-man band is best because I love different things about each. They're very different entities. But this, even though this is a beat up cover, again, it's been around a long time. I got it used back in the 80s, but this is what gatefolds are for. I mean,
Yeah.
you look inside, here's the credits, very legible lyrics and songwriting credits, instrumental credits, everything. So the joy of vinyl, and then you have this tiny, big difference.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have the original sleeve as well?
I believe he does.
Yeah,
Yes.
there we go.
It's in pieces, but
It's
it's
live.
Well loved.
this
And
the
again,
seams are undone, but yeah, it's
much like my old Crime of the Century record, though, it still plays great.
if we ever do meet Bill in person, I gotta check out your record collection in person. Like
Not all
really
of them look like they've been in an abusive home.
okay.
Uh, yeah, I think this is an example of an album where a band had their backs to the wall and they absolutely pushed away all the obstacles that were keeping them there and just found a new level of creativity. They could
Mhm.
no longer rely on whatever Gabriel brought to the band. And well, I don't want to discredit Peter Gabriel because the man's obviously brilliant. Uh, I think it goes unnoticed sometimes that, as mentioned when you talked in a previous episode about The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway and Gabriel wanting to control all the lyrics.
Mm.
Prior to that, he didn't control all the lyrics. These guys all wrote lyrics. So
Mhm.
all those cool lyrics on the earlier albums were not all Peter Gabriel. So I think sometimes he gets credited a little too much for what the band was previously.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah. And
This
he would agree
features,
with you.
sorry, go ahead.
So he would agree to that.
Yeah. This has probably my two favorite Genesis songs, and they're both on side one. My favorite Genesis song of all time is Madman Moon. It's a Tony Banks composition. It is just absolutely gorgeous, and I love his lyric to this. This idea here being lost in the desert, and there's a line, I'd welcome a horse's kick to send me back if I could find a horse not made out of sand. That's that's brilliant, Tony. That's a lovely lyric. The whole lyric is wonderful too. But and Entangled. Wow.
Yeah.
You talked about it earlier. that combination of Hackett and Banks. We really should have had more of that.
Mhm.
Those two guys together, no matter how they might or might not have gotten along personally, were brilliant in tandem. They, it was kind of like the Rick Davies, Roger Hodgson thing, or the Lennon McCartney, or any. They make each other's work better. One of the cool things I'd like to point out on here is that it wasn't just Hackett playing 12-string guitar, and it wasn't just Hackett and Rutherford. Also, Tony Banks is credited with 12-string guitar on here still. So Tony was already retaining his dominant role in the band here in different ways, and maybe that's one of them. Like, I don't need you guys to play all this; I can play it myself. And I love Tony. I'll talk a little smack about him sometimes, but he's probably my favorite keyboard player, period. He's not as flashy as some of the classic prog guys like Emerson and Wakeman, but he has his own touch, and it's very musical, and it comes across in his classical albums that he's put out post Genesis.
Mhm.
But really, yeah, this is just top to bottom, I think, their best album. I get what Jim was saying previously about robbery, assault, and battery. But I guess I appreciate the humor a little more and what Phil does with his voice on it and playing the character and watching the video for that, was
Mhm.
pretty entertaining too the first time I saw that. But, yeah. And Wind and Wuthering is only a hair behind this. I think they are a great album pair, but I'm only picking one per artist, so sorry, Wind.
Now that you mentioned Wind and Wuthering, I'm just surprised it hasn't been released as a double package set on at some point, because they were released in the same year, pretty much close together. You know, that's a good choice. It's a really good choice. So,
Oh, we could go on a tangent and a rant about what they should be doing with that
yeah,
period.
yeah,
I
I
love
know,
that period of Genesis.
I know, I know. All right, we must carry on over to Ken. Yes. Okay. This
Day
is not
12.
scripted, folks. Okay,
Yeah.
over to
Yes.
Ken.
For day 12, this perfect album for me is another debut album. It's also one that uh, cements Steve Lillywhite as one of my favorite producers, and that is Boy from U2. I know U2 gets a lot of flack these days, and honestly, I love them, but only through about 1991. After that, they kind of lost me, um, and that's fine, and that's fine. Uh, it charted only as 63 in the U.S. Had two singles, "A Day Without Me" and "I Will Follow." I Will Follow remains one of my favorite U2 songs of all time. That and off this album, "Out of Control." And it was probably two of their um, most popular live songs too. And I think they still continue to perform them live to this day.
Mhm.
Just like I've said previously with the Police debut album, this is when U2 had a very raw and edgy sound. And there again, I like that. Um, another, and also like the Police, categorized as post-punk. Um, and unlike a lot of the post-punk artists, not all of the songs on this album are just, upbeat, jump up and down songs.
Mhm.
You have some that are slow and uh, almost contemplative, which
Mhm.
is I still find very unusual for that period, 1980, for this type of band. But it's just very different from what the other artists were doing at the time to me. And this was before Edge got into all the different effects pedals and stuff like that. Yet his playing is still the same. It still has that unique Edge sound. And considering they were just kids at the time, Bono's voice was so developed, and he had such control over the voice.
Mhm.
And the band, of course, has a wonderful rhythm section with the with drums and the bass. And one of my favorite four-piece bands or three-piece with a singer that are able to pull off live what they did in the studio. And I think that's one of Steve Lillywhite's strengths, is being able to catch that live sound in a studio. It's almost like a live album without being able to hear the audience. So this wasn't my first U2 album, but it remains right up there as one of my favorites. And anyone that's familiar with more recent U2, I recommend you check this out.
Good choice. I tend to agree with you about U2. I tend to think that they hit the pinnacle in '91 with Achtung Baby. I think that was a necessary step for them to take musically. But after that, it just kind of peters out for me. They have moments, but no, that's a good choice. That's what a good choice. All right, the man of the hour, Jim.
Me. Okay.
I automatically think it's you. Yes, it is you. Go ahead. It is you. Go ahead.
All right, I am going to remain in, I'm going to stay in 1976 where Bill is, and for the third day in a row, I'm going with an artist that probably had 4 albums from the 70s that people could classify as perfect. This yeah, the choice for today is "Station to Station" by David Bowie. Um, for me, I feel like this is the best Bowie album, the most consistent Bowie album, but it's also really diverse in and amongst itself. I mean, just starting off with this, kind of German expressionistic prog piece of the title track, going into the big hit Golden Years, which sounds nothing like the track before it. Word on a Wing is just this incredibly touching ballad. TVC 15, Roy Bittan on the piano, you gotta love that. What follows is, I think, my absolutely favorite Bowie track, which is Stay. Just the funky guitar work on that is just undeniably joyful, and, as Armando would say, ass shaking.
Very much
And
so.
then, yes, and then ends with the jazz standard "Wild as the Wind," which Bowie almost kind of claims on his own. I mean, it's very hard to kind of claw that away from Nina Simone, but Bowie does a really admirable job of making this tune his own, much in the way that, say, Ava Cassidy has made Fields of Gold her own and stole it away from Sting. But that's another story.
Another episode, guys.
Another episode. Yeah, Station to Station. Like I was saying, people could make arguments for Ziggy Stardust, Hunky Dory, Young Americans, Heroes, Low. I mean, Bowie's output in the 70s is amazing. But to me, this is the one that stands most solidly amongst the entire discography for me. And so that's this is my slice of Bowie perfection, station to station.
Very good choice. That was on my list. I took it off.
Okay.
This was on, Station to Station was on, so was Ziggy Stardust. I took them both off.
I had Ziggy on my list for the longest time, and about 3 days before we started recording these episodes, it's like, I'm sorry, Ziggy, you gotta go. Gotta throw Station to Station in there.
No, I hear you. And a little footnote, I was gonna buy that Rockstar box set, but you know something? I streamed it on YouTube and I heard some of the demos. Why didn't you clean them up? Like, I'm sorry. It sounds like it was done in a shoebox, some of those demos. Like, it's like really bad quality, and I'm not paying that money for that. So that much money for that. It's like $200. Not doing it. But no, that's a good choice. That's a good choice.
I'm
Um,
happy with it.
I'm glad you are. And I'm surprised he didn't do any more work with Harry Maslin as a producer. I think that's the only album he did with Harry Maslin, I think, as on production.
I'm not sure about that one.
So it's just surprising. No, that is a really good choice. My number 12 selection is we're going back to 1977, specifically October 21st, for the release of Bat Out of Hell.
Oh,
Okay. This album,
you win. You win.
hands up. That's it. This album has its roots going way back to 1975. Every record company turned it down. According to Meatloaf's manager, as far back as 1999, 2000, he truly believes they started record companies just for the sole purpose of turning down this album. Seven tracks on the album. Originally, it was going to be 6. This album, I know people call it schlock. I know people call it shit. To me, this is theatrical rock. There was theatrical rock before The Wall, and this is theatrical rock. Okay, one coffee, guys. Forgive me.
Easy for you to say.
Exactly. Everyone's a smart ass today. And no, seriously, I mean, fantastic album. To be able to get some of the E Street Band to perform on this album, Roy Bittan, Max Weinberg, like, come on, please. Todd Rundgren to produce this album. First of all, the title track clocking in at 9 minutes and change. First of all these were written as theatrical pieces. The original Bat Out of Hell, 45 minutes long.
Really?
45 minutes long. What in the hell are we doing here? Like, what is this? Okay, like, seriously. And then you have, you took the words right out of my mouth. Hot Summer Nights. Just a really feel good song, just in a sing along type of a track. The poetic, poignant Heaven Can Wait. The the ender for side 1, All Revved Up and No Place to Go. It's almost like you could picture like in a play, like a biker singing this kind of a, getting on his bike at the end of the song and just taking off the stage, just with his girlfriend. Side 2 starts off, with the beautiful 283 and Bad, which was a late addition to the album. The original track listing for side 2 was going to be More Than You Deserve, then Paradise by the Dashboard Light, and For Crying Out Loud. Very last minute, 283 in Bad was written, and it replaced More Than You Deserve. Good move. Fantastic vocals, fantastic harmonies, fantastic production. Tom Rundgren produced this. No record company again would touch it. There's a famous story of how they would. First of all, there are no demos for this album. Even if you go on YouTube, no demos were done for this album. You could not demo Bat Out of Hell. You could not demo to Paradise by Dashboard Light. What they would do is you'd have, they have an audition for a record company, exact. Jim Steinman, Meatloaf, and Ellen Foley would go in and start acting out Paradise by Dashboard Light. Then in that middle section where they start necking in the car, those two are going at it on top of the piano, on the boardroom table, all over the place, tongues everywhere, clothes flying off. And then by that point, they were thrown out of the office. Okay, because audition's over, you're out. Clive Davis said to Jim Steinman, "Do you even know how to write rock music? Do you know what you're doing? You have no idea what you're doing." And then he turns to Meatloaf and says, "And you, I can't even sell you. I don't even know what the hell you're doing. I can't even figure you out." He threw them out on the street. He says, "I can't touch you. You're done." Right? So you've got Meatloaf standing outside the Sony building yelling "F you" to Clive Davis, saying, "You guys are nuts. This is classic," right?
As one does to Clive
Exactly.
Davis.
I mean, all these songs are basically mini plays. Again, the original version of 283 and Paradise by Dashboard Light, 27 minutes. 27 minutes. So Ty Rundgren, when you saw this, he says, 27 minutes. How the hell am I going to make a song out of 27 minutes? Like, come on. I got to edit this down. And then when Meatloaf came in, it was edited down to 8 minutes, 45 seconds. And Meatloaf said, "You killed the song. You killed the song." And he's like, 8 minutes and 45 seconds? Come on, just listen to this, right? He listened to it. It was perfect. And again, it ends off with the beautiful For Crying Out Loud, another 9-minute track, just exquisite. This album for me, I mean, I first heard of 283 and Bad when I was at summer camp. I was 8 years old. Okay, this goes back a long way. I remember this on A-Track, this album. Okay, this album goes back a long way. I think that within the 40 some odd minutes that this album covers, you have every song on this album works. Every song is a mini play, and it's emotional. It is gut-wrenching. It is rocking. It is poignant. It makes you cry. It makes me cry, actually. And it's exquisite. It is beautiful. Question?
I have questions. And let me throw both of these out there. The song that was replaced for the first, that 2 out of 3 ain't bad replaced, more than you deserve, I think is
More
what we
than
call
you
it.
deserve, yeah.
My first question is, was that ever released anywhere or covered by another artist? And my second question is, are the full versions of Bat Out of Hell and Paradise by the Dashboard Light available somewhere?
As far as I know, with regards to More Than You Deserve, More Than You Deserve was a song that was written for a play that he was working on, that Jim Steinman was working on. First of all, he never envisioned himself making an album, ever. So he had no idea what it would take, what went into making an album in terms of recording it, etc. I don't know the name of the play that More Than You Deserve is taken from. As far as I know, there are no examples out there of the original songs that are just written down in terms of like song sheets, like written, the way
Sheet music.
Sheet music. Sorry, again, I need another coffee. Just on sheet music, but nothing is recorded. I do believe there is something recorded for More Than You Deserve. I'm not sure. I do believe that it was recorded by somebody else, another artist, but I don't, the name escapes me right now. But every song on this album works. Every song on this album is a banger. And just a little note, that motorcycle section on Bad Out of Hell, that breakdown section, that's Todd Rundgren.
Yep.
And at one
One
point,
take, Todd.
at one point, they were in the mixing stages, like just about to finish the track. And Jim Steinman says, you know, in a whiny voice, Todd, where's my motorcycle solo? I want my motorcycle solo. You promised me a motorcycle solo. He goes, with everything going on here, you really want a motorcycle solo? Yes, I want a motorcycle solo. Where's my solo? And he's like, oh, bloody hell. Okay, hold on a second. Grabs his guitar. What do you want? A Kawasaki? Never mind. Hold on. Does a bit of an adjustment on the amps on the dials. Okay, hold on. Does it in one take. Does the solo in one take and then goes into the actual solo of the track. Brilliant. Brilliant. This album, I think at this point has sold 40 million plus, if not more. It's unfortunate we lost Jim Steinman a few years back, and then Meatloaf is gone too a couple of years ago. But this album is one of a kind, and it is not schlock, it is not crap, it is theatrical rock at its best. So that's my choice for number 12. Go on.
Got a couple quick quips here. I just want to say that back in the 80s, All Revved Up was nearly ruined for me by Home Box Office because they had an ad campaign that used the song with the altered lyrics, All Revved Up on HBO. And that was
Oh, it really is.
Oh,
yeah. So it took years to get that out of my brain. And secondly, I just noticed the irony of Todd Rundgren in the 70s, of all people, saying something needs to be cut down, that it's too long. I would expect Todd to take the full 45
I
minutes,
know.
Bat Out of Hell, the title track, and try to fit it on one side of vinyl rather than cut it down.
I know. It's
As Todd
specifically
was wont to
with
do.
Utopia, etc. I mean, you know, the icon being 30 minutes plus. I mean, come on. But yeah, I mean, even when they were going through the Paradise by the Dashboard Light, you know, in the section, gonna go all the way tonight, we're gonna go all the way into tonight's night. They were doing it as a call and response, kind of like, section. And he's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Just give it to me 4 times. Go through it 4 times. Going to go all the way tonight. We're going to go all the way into tonight's night. And they did it once. He goes, that's it. Let's just track it and get it, because he was paying for all this. He was paying for the time for the studio. It's done it in Bearsville Studios. He's like, we can get this done very inexpensively and it'll be fine. And they did it. I mean, it's a classic. And it's a classic for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So much for not going on a rant.
Well, it's not a rant, it's not a rant, but I do still want my other question answered.
Go ahead.
Gosh darn it, which is, are there 40-minute versions of Bat Out of Hell and 20-minute versions of Paradise out there?
I've looked at it. I've looked for it on YouTube. No, there's nothing out there that I can find.
Okay.
Maybe in
I think
Todd's vault.
I think those versions are relegated to sheet music.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this album took off, and trying to top it, you couldn't. I mean, you couldn't. So
my question is,
yes,
what versions of those songs did he do live? The album version or the original long versions?
he did the album versions. Like, first of all, they toured this album incessantly, and they did this album in its entirety. As one of his backup singers, the woman that appears in the video, Carla, what's her name? Carla DeVito. Carla DeVito. She said, we went from these, 2,000 or seat theaters to playing the, C&E Grandstand in Toronto for 30,000, 50,000, 40,000 people. You go from the small clubs to the big venues within like a 3-month or 6-month span. It just blows your head off, because I mean, you can't grasp the enormity of what is happening around you, right? And I'm sure she was happy to get off that tour, because she had to play Ellen Foley's part in Paradise every night. Every night. So yeah. No, I'm not even going to go there. Okay, the rant stops there with me. So
It's funny though that the comment was made about, this, who are you, Steinman? You can't write songs to save your life. When even after Meatloaf you know, he wrote two of the most successful songs of the early 80s with, you know, Making Love Out of Nothing at All, which, you know, it's Air Supply, but it's a great song. And then, of course, Total Eclipse of the Heart, which is, you know, another fantastic piece, all nearly 7 glorious minutes of it. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. It's like, to have Clive Davis say, do you know what rock music is? Do you know what pop or do you know how to write, contemporary pop and rock music? You have no idea what you're doing. And he's just like, you know, okay, that's your opinion, right? So, and then Clive Davis, hindsight, oh yes, I regret not signing Meatloaf. I'm like, yeah, hindsight is always 2020, you moron. But I mean, what are you gonna do, right? It's the way it is.
And it's sad that a lot of the young people only know Meatloaf, know Meatloaf from Fight Club.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And granted, he was wonderful in Fight Club, but
But yeah, but I would say that I would consider Meatloaf a studio artist in terms of performing live. Um, he had a very hard time singing live. He was because of his size and being able to, do the notes properly. He was a big man and he could not get enough air into his system into his lungs in order to project what he needed to project. I mean, there were times, sorry guys, mini rant. There were times when he would go off stage and they'd have an oxygen tank waiting for him because he would just pass out. Right? The musicians would go off stage, good show, me, and he'd be lying there on the floor, passed out with a mask on his face. And then any new musician or backup singer that would be with them would say, shouldn't we help him? Oh, he'll be fine. He's just gonna get some oxygen. He'll be okay. Because that was just par for the course. That was just what happened. So
Yeah, I mean, those last, I should not be singing in any way, shape, or form, but you know, as you know, people are wont to do to try to sing along with records. Those last 2 minutes of "Bat Out of Hell" are just excruciating to try to hit. And my hat is off to Mr. Ade for being able to hit those notes in any way, shape, or form. It's a powerful, powerful performance.
you can just tell that when he did that, Rundgren said, okay, we're gonna come in with, you're just gonna belt it out. That's all you're gonna do today. Because after singing that long outro, that was it. He was probably done after like maybe one or two takes at the most,
Yeah.
But anyways, there you have it, guys. A slightly extended edition of our 31 Perfect albums, day 12. Again, we want to thank you guys for watching. And again, down in the comments, please put your opinion of what you think a perfect album is. I want to thank Jim, Ken, and Bill for joining me on this adventure. And yes, it is an adventure. We're having a good time, damn it, and I'll stand by that. So, okay. Again, we enjoy hearing from you guys, and we enjoy bringing this content to you. So, I want to thank everyone again for joining me, and we will see you soon for episode 13 of our 31 Perfect Albums. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.